We hit.
It was just the greatest feeling.
And we hit.
You want to be that guy.
And we hit.
Michigan takes over.
This is Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker stuff.
They will meet a dastardly fate here.
Oh, how I hate Ohio State.
We're right here. We're standing our ground.
Are you ready to go to Pasadena?
This is for the blue. This is for Michigan.
The way we keep coming and staying after them, ain't nobody gonna beat us.
Unbelievable. That is a Heisman Trophy winner, Frank. What a roll.
Charles Woodson down the sideline. He's gonna
go. All right, I told you the weather would break, didn't I? And it has. It's a beautiful day. It'll be 60 degrees by the time we play Saturday afternoon. Guaranteed. If it isn't, we don't have to play.
It was late in 1968 when Bo Schembechler stepped into the coaching position at the University of Michigan. He was challenged to resurrect a once-storied program that had only won a single Big Ten title in the previous 18 seasons. Few understood what Michigan's athletic department saw in the Miami University coach. One Detroit paper's headline read, "Bo who?"
I said, well, I know a little bit about him. You know, he used to hang around with Vince Lombardi, and if anything rubbed off on him as Vince Lombardi. And he also worked for a guy named Woody Hayes. I think that maybe he might have some quality.
At that point, we were all thinking, Schembechler who? You know, we didn't know at that point. But we learned right away when we started doing winter conditioning.
I want you ready to go, padded, Tuesday.
I'll be ready.
I had good friends who played for Bo at Miami, and actually they called me up and they said, God, we're so glad that this dude is gone, man. He was an absolute terror down here.
Keep the ball down and drill it in there. You got it? Drill it in there. Come on, Ed. Come on, Ed. You bounce like a cork, Big Shuttlesworth. Let's go. And we had no movement on the man over the guard.
Know that Bo had a reputation which he inherited all the way back to guys like Paul Brown. Number one, you teach. You teach what you're trying to get across better than anybody else. The second thing he believed in was a time schedule. In other words, you don't want to waste any time. So everything in practice was scheduled. Full line, interior line, passing drills, everything was scheduled. And you started at 2:02 and you went to 2:10, and at 2:10 you stopped.
Well, get the ball out, Simba! Honest to God, you just run into two men.
Schembechler was more of a field general than a coach. Even between drills, Bo's players were expected to run, not walk.
Yes, I recall what they were like. They were horrible. We hit, and we hit, and we hit. We hit too much, and Bo figured that out over the years and modified the way he did it. By far and away, the easiest part of playing for Bo was actually playing on Saturday afternoon.
Bo comes in. He changes our mindset in our bodies, in our work ethic. You know, we lost a lot of players. You know, a lot of players quit. But, you know, we had great players on that team. Great players.
His famous words in the spring game before the '69 season held true. Gentlemen, we have a team. In Bo's first season in Ann Arbor, the Wolverines won 7 of their first 9 games. But the true test would come in Week 10, when the nation's top-ranked team, the Ohio State Buckeyes, arrived at Michigan Stadium.
For nearly 3/4 of a century, the football teams of these two neighboring states, Michigan and Ohio, have been engaging in a rivalry that is truly second to none in terms of intensity, conference championship, and national title implications. And seldom in this long football tradition has there been a day as perfect for a showdown battle as this one.
In order to win, men, he said, Moorhead, you got to be better than Kern. And Henry Hill, you got to be better than Jim Stillwagon. And Mandich, you got to be better than White. And he went right on down the line. He said, you know, and I'm pissed off we're not the favorites. From Sunday afternoon, he had us ready to go.
And there is no game on the remainder of our schedule more important than the one you're going down to the tunnel to play today. Now let's go. Let's go.
Woody Hayes' Buckeyes were unbeaten 2 years running.
They had some astonishing margin of victory that season. It was like 30 points a game. They just steamrolled everybody. So that's what I remember getting ready for the game. We were just the next course in their undefeated season. We were just the next meal.
There were people saying that they could have beaten some of the teams in the NFL at that time. Now, I don't know if that's true, but they were saying that that was one of the great, maybe the greatest team in the history of college football.
And the battle is on. Campana up to the 25, cuts to the side to the 30, gets to the 43-yard line before he's knocked down by Dana Coyne. The man
when we played Woody's greatest team here in 1969, he was undefeated for the second year in a row, and nobody had come close to him. And the papers all said, well, the only team that could beat Ohio State was the Minnesota Vikings.
He said, we're going to run the weak side. They're going to slant to the strength. They anchor the end. We got natural hold back, weak side. We're going to run away from Tatum. And, and then the other thing he said is that they don't know how to come from behind. They've never been behind. We're going to get up on them, and they're going to have a tough time.
More than 103,000 fans hope for something big to happen that fall Saturday in Ann Arbor. And what they saw was the greatest performance in the history of Michigan football.
Cross somersaults into the end zone. It's a touchdown for Michigan, and the Wolverines take the lead 13-12.
That was a culmination of a very intensive, tumultuous year that got us prepared, to win probably the biggest game in Michigan football history.
All right, it's 1st and 10, and the handoff goes to Billy Taylor, finds an opening, goes to the 25, rides off tacklers, goes to the 20-yard line, down the sideline to the 13, the 10. He's out of bounds on the 7-yard line and maybe closer to the 5.
Bo told me one time, he said, you guys never knew this, but every single day in practice, regardless of whether we were playing Illinois, Missouri, Michigan State, or Navy, we did something in that practice for Ohio State. You didn't know it, but you were running a play against a defense that was in anticipation of Ohio State. He said every day of practice.
Michigan's Barry Pearson electrified the crowd with a 60-yard punt return that set up a Wolverine touchdown in the second quarter.
Goes to the 40. He may break this one. He's got a man blocking for him, cuts to the 10, and is down on the 4-yard line. What a run by Barry Pearson of Michigan.
I can't believe this is happening. I had to jump through a couple guys, avoid the wave, and then I'm on my way. And geez, we got most of our blockers left, and they got 2 or 3 guys left, and it was beautiful.
Michigan's defense did their part by intercepting Ohio State 6 times, 3 by Pearson himself.
It is intercepted by Michigan's Barry Pearson. He comes back to the 30, to the 35, tries to pick up blockers, goes to midfield, to the 40, and he is knocked down on the 35-yard line.
Well, I was in what players call the zone, and I know most of our team was in the zone, believe me. There were great performances. Everybody had a great day. That's all there was to it.
Stern throws a deep one down the middle. It sails very deep. It's intercepted by Michigan. And that is the end of the first half.
You can't let the other team go in at halftime thinking that they can win. And we not only went to halftime thinking we could win, we went to halftime knowing that we could win. We knew that we could compete with them. We knew we could play with them. And that's a dangerous thing to have happen to an underdog.
In the second half, the Wolverines won a defensive battle as both teams were held scoreless.
Fumbles the ball. It's picked up by Michigan. At the 31.
I'd never left the press box, very seldom, but in that game with 2 minutes to go, I was on the sideline.
And this may be the beginning of the end of the Ohio State dynasty. 4, 3, 2, 1. They got Schembecker on their shoulders. Listen to the crowd go wild. Michigan upsets Ohio State. Believe it or not, the final score. Ripley couldn't have made it any better than this. Michigan 24, Ohio State 12.
That game started the modern era of Michigan football that continues to this day. Sellouts every week. The phenomena that is Michigan football. It started on that November day in 1969, and that's one of the things that every single one of us who were members of that team, we're very proud of that.
That sort of established my program here. After Woody had retired, he says, "Damn you, Bo. You will never win a bigger game than that." And he was right. I never won a bigger game than that.
And there it is, what has to be the upset of the century. And there it is, what has to be the upset of the century. In this centennial year of college football, what a ball game we have seen here today. And the jubilation and cheering and celebration will go on long into the night in old Ann Arbor town.
Michigan's 1969 win over Ohio State not only put the Wolverines back on the map of college football powerhouses, it also started what is now known as the 10-year war. It was never hotter, never colder, or just plain better than during the unforgettable 10-year battle between Bo Schembechler and his former mentor, Woody Hayes.
Bo was mentored by Woody Hayes, was on his staff at Ohio State. So you knew how much that game meant, not only because it was Michigan-Ohio State, because it was Bo and Woody, and it usually determined the winner of the Big Ten Conference and who went to the Rose Bowl.
Woody was Bo's dad. This is Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker stuff.
Today, the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is not just the best in college football, but in all of American sports.
Records don't even matter in that game. It is to me and to most, it is the greatest college football rivalry there is, and there ever will be.
Oh, how I hate Ohio State. It's big. I mean, I can't stress to you enough how big that game is.
Playing in Columbus, waking up and didn't have any hot water to take a shower. So that really let me know about that tradition and let me know about the rivalry, that they took it serious.
The Michigan-Ohio State rivalry began well before Bo Schembechler came to Ann Arbor. The rivalry became so intense in 1950 that highly criticized Ohio State head coach Wes Fessler resigned after a loss to Michigan in the Snow Bowl, which cost Ohio State a trip to Pasadena. Woody Hayes then took the reins in Columbus and dominated the rivalry until 1969, when Bo started the war.
These guys were best friends before Bo became head coach. After Bo becomes head coach at Michigan, they talk only twice a year. At the Big Ten meeting in Chicago, and at midfield before and after the Ohio State game. That's it. No phone calls, no letters, no nothing.
Woody Hayes would talk about not fueling up his car on a recruiting trip because he didn't want to spend one nickel on Michigan soil.
Just like every season in the 10-year war, the 1973 Big Ten championship came down to the Ohio State-Michigan game. Both teams were undefeated, with Michigan ranked number 4 and Ohio State ranked number 1.
A real calmness before the storm of the game.
And they're tearing down Michigan's coveted M Club banner. They will meet a dastardly fate here for that. There isn't a Michigan man who wouldn't like to go out and scalp those Buckeyes right now. But the M-men will prevail because they're getting the banner back up again. And here they come, the Maize and Blues, taking away 105,000 fans.
With heavy rain in Ann Arbor, the game was mostly fought on the ground. The two teams combined for only 90 yards rushing in the entire game. Ohio State held a 10-0 lead at halftime, mostly due to the efforts of running back Archie Griffin. Michigan came out fired up in the second half and controlled both sides of the ball, outgaining the Buckeyes more than 2-1.
So the first half was was Ohio State's half. Second half was Michigan's half, and we fought back.
To the right side. They need 2 inches. Dennis Franklin, the quarterback, taking a long count from center. He hands off to Shuttlesworth 5, and it's down to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Dennis Franklin! Oh my God, Dennis Franklin fooled everybody. He fooled me. He fooled the entire Ohio State team.
In the waning moments, Michigan's hopes of a Big Ten title, a Rose Bowl bid, and a potential national championship were dashed as kicker Mike Lantry missed a field goal attempt for the win.
Kneeling Mike Lantry, super toe. It's spotted, it's kicked, it's end over end, and it is off to the right. It's no good, Mike Lantry.
It was extremely frustrating, for me, because we'd fought so hard to get back and put ourselves in that position.
I think the kick was good to this day. If, the line would have extended into the heavens, I think the kick went in, over the post, but it was kicked so high that in my mind's eye, it gave the referee a chance to say, no good.
I wish I'd made those kicks.
After 60 minutes, 2 teams still remain tied atop the Big Ten standings, both unbeaten. Who goes to the Rose Bowl? How that question was answered remains one of the biggest controversies in college football history.
Anybody in that stadium that day knew Michigan had outplayed Ohio State.
But the day after the game, Big Ten Commissioner Wayne Duke took a poll of the Big Ten athletic directors, and they voted by a score of 6-4 in favor of Ohio State going to the Rose Bowl. Now, of course, Ohio State was very enthusiastic about that, but Michigan and Bo Schembechler were extremely bitter.
And he knew every athletic director who voted, and he said, I'll remember those guys as long as I live. And matter of fact, I don't think he ever spoke to any of them again.
It was a very passionate meeting that we had, when Bo really stood up for us as a team. We just couldn't believe that the athletic directors had voted that way.
One of the things that stuck in Bo's mind, he says, you're talking about 75 or 80 kids that played their butts off, and they don't care about politics and votes. They feel like they deserve to go, and so do I.
But they should have played in '73. That was the year that we had the infamous vote by the athletic directors that we finally had to get that rule changed too.
3 years later in 1976, Michigan traveled to Columbus with perhaps Bo's best defense ever, and the Maize and Blue showcased one of their greatest defensive performances during Schembechler's 21-year tenure.
And the kickoff of the 76 Michigan-Ohio State game is right out of the end zone. A la Bobby Wood fashion of earlier in 76. Look at Wood slap his hands. That's the way to put over Robert O'Boy. Jones, there's a hand up to Corbin. He hit and dropped right there. Running quick without a huddle now, trying to catch him sleeping. Ricky Leach can't find a man open, and he eats the ball at the 43-yard line.
John Falk grabbed my helmet. I said, John, what are you doing? He said, this is Ohio State game, and you better buckle that up and get it tighter, because you haven't been hit like you're going to get hit today.
There's Ricky Leach going back, a left-handed passer, caught his arm, can't find a receiver, and he's hit right there at the 48-yard line. Ricky Leach looked for a moment.
Whoever it was had a running start at me, and I think when I got up off the ground, my face mask was about over where my ears were.
This was a typical Big Ten war, and the game was scoreless at the half.
Bo came in that locker room at the half, and he said, men, we got him. We got him. We made Woody pass. We made him pass. The defense is solid today. It's solid. They're not going to score on us. They're not going to score on us. He says, it's over, men. Michigan is going to win this game today. Now let's go back out that second half, because we're going to show them who Michigan is.
The first half was as even as anything I know. And although we were confident at halftime, we had no idea we could go out and put 22 points on the board and win it with a shutout.
Ricky Leach asks for the crowd to settle down as he hands off to Rob Lido, and it is! There it is! Oh, Rob Lido!
A lot of points. We rolled up a lot of yardage. It was Leach's sophomore year, and Lytle at tailback, and that was a good ball club.
There go the players carrying off Schembechler on their shoulders.
And for us to pull our team together and go to the Rose Bowl, was such a fantastic memory that I'll entrust for the rest of my life.
The dominant 22-0 shutout over Ohio State in Columbus started a 3-year winning streak against the Buckeyes, where the Wolverines did not give up a single touchdown. After Woody Hayes retired in 1978, the rivalry didn't subside one bit, as both proud football programs staged some historic battles. Maybe none bigger than in 1986, when Michigan quarterback Jim Harbaugh publicly guaranteed the Wolverines would win in Columbus.
I just felt it was our destiny to go to the Rose Bowl, and I guaranteed that we would win. There's no way we're not going to win this game. I know it's our destiny to go to the Rose Bowl, and so that word guaranteeing the win kind of created a big ruckus.
Coach Schembechler also had a prediction of his own to junior running back Jamie Morris, who the coach paid a visit to the night before the game.
And he tells me, you know, tomorrow is going to be the greatest day of your life. You're going out before 85,000 fans that can't stand you. But I want you to visualize. I want you to see yourself hitting every hole, every play being a touchdown. If you see yourself doing that, we're already winning.
Morris on the cutback.
Bo's prediction rang true as the Wolverines battled back from a 14-3 deficit behind none other than Jamie Morris, who had the game of a lifetime.
There's Morris right up the middle.
I saw it all before it happened. So when it happened for me, when we go in there and I rush for 210 yards and everything like that, I knew it because it happened the night before.
He pitches to Morris. Touchdown, Wolverines.
In the end, a missed field goal by OSU kicker Matt France helped Harbaugh keep his promise and send the Wolverines to Pasadena.
Off to the side.
It was just the greatest feeling, just the greatest feeling. I remember just walking out of that stadium. I remember I had my leather jacket on and you know, felt like my feet were walking about 9 feet off the ground.
Touchdown, Wolverines!
What started as a 10-year war between two legendary coaches has continued to this day as one of the great rivalries in college sports. In 1901, Michigan was in search of a new football coach, one strong-willed enough and skilled enough to lead the Big Blue into battle against the powerhouse programs on the East Coast and in the Midwest. Fielding Yost was a national name in the coaching ranks, and when the brash young Phenom's train pulled into Ann Arbor that summer, little did anyone realize that the University of Michigan and its football program would never be the same.
He grabs his bag and literally runs up State Street. Hurry up, Yost. That's where it comes from. Once he gets to campus, an Ann Arbor News guy is there waiting for him and asks him, how is Michigan going to do this year? And he says, without missing a beat, we're not going to lose a game all year. And they don't. And they don't the next year, the next year, and the next year. They go 4 years and almost 5 without a single loss in 56 straight games.
And there's no coach in the history of all of football that's done more for football than Fielding H. Yost.
Yost developed Michigan's program into a football dynasty, going undefeated and winning 4 straight national championships between 1901 and 1904.
In Fielding Yost's first 5 years is what's called the point-a-minute teams. Because this first year, for example, they scored 550 points to the opponent's 0. And it was better than a point a minute because most teams quit in the third or fourth quarter and got on the bus and went home, or the train in those days.
That first season, Michigan traveled to California to beat Stanford in the inaugural Rose Bowl game. As athletic director, Yost started to fantasize about building the first colossal coliseum.
Mallett in the gun with Hart in the backfield. Gets the snap. Firing deep, right corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Michigan! Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another afternoon of Michigan football. We're live from the Big House under sunny skies today.
Fielding H. Yost spent the first part of his career at Michigan building the best football program, and now he needed to build the biggest stadium.
You keep rolling like this, the best era ever for any college team in college football anywhere. And eventually you realize we don't have enough space for all our fans. And Yost's idea was very simple: build the biggest stadium in the country.
And people said that he was out of his mind. But you see, his degree, he has a civil engineering degree besides being a great football coach, and had tremendous vision.
The faculty's against it, the president's against it, the student body votes against it as well, initially.
Stadiums consumed Yost, and because of university resistance, he wasn't able to build the first colossal coliseum. But he would build the biggest and arguably the best.
And I think the mainstay of his vision is this football stadium.
One so far ahead of its time that the 8 electrical conduits Yost planned in 1925, long before TV was invented, are still sufficient for the networks that broadcast Michigan games today.
He convinced the regents of the University of Michigan that we should build a stadium of this size, despite the fact that the largest population was in Detroit, which was still 30 miles away. At that time, that's a long way to travel.
People would have to come from out of town, and how were they going to get here in their 1932 Fords?
This is before interstate highways, before TV, before fancy cars, and they packed the place. And as Fielding Yost once said to Benny Oosterbaan, leaving the initiation game versus Ohio State, a 21-0 victory, he says, "Benny, 85,000 people paid $5 to sit in those seats. And Benny, you know the best part? They had to leave the seats there."
Although almost all fields ran east-west at the time, Yost designed Michigan Stadium to run north-south. This keeps the sun out of the players' eyes and the fall winds to a minimum. Today, all football fields are designed Yost's way.
Fielding H. Yost realized that this was going to grow. This stadium could grow and hold, with the footings that were put in at that time, over 130,000 fans. And when Fritz Crisler built it to over 100,000 in the 1950s, he decided at that point to add 001 to it when it went over 100,000, because he said he always wanted to have a seat for Fielding H. Yost, and only Fritz Crisler was going to be the one who knew where that seat was. And to this day, we still have that 01. It's 107-501.
Mallett has a blitz coming, has a crossing route to Matthews.
They talk about the Rose Bowl in California. Really no big deal to us because we play here all of our home games. And when we go to other stadiums, it really didn't affect us at all because our home has over 100,000.
To think of 110,000 every Saturday is quite remarkable, no matter who you're playing. And that in itself tells you a little bit about our tradition.
Legendary sportscaster Bob Ufer once declared that the Big House was the
hole that Yost dug, Canham carpeted, and Crisler paid for, and Schembechler fills up every Saturday afternoon.
There are stadiums, and then there are shrines. Michigan Stadium, more commonly known as the Big House, is a football temple.
There's something special about it. You know, it as a player, it allows you to take your game to that next step, you know, that next level, and allows you to make plays that you might not have made in other stadiums. But since you're at home in front of your fan base and one of the best stadiums in the country, you can go that extra mile.
Yeah, baby! Number one in the nation!
The greatest moment in Michigan football history is probably when they dedicated the stadium when it first opened up.
The greatest name in Michigan football history is every game that's played in the Big House.
Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another afternoon of Michigan football.
But it's just a thrill. When you can get over 100,000 people in one location, it's a spectacle.
107,501. You know, it's crazy on here on Saturdays. You have that many people in here in the stadium. It's home for me.
Any fan who's seen a game there will long remember it. Any player who runs through that dark tunnel to hear over 100,000 Michigan maniacs screaming the victors can never forget it.
But that tunnel was a long, dark tunnel that there's just a small light at the end.
I mean, you know, you're in the back of the tunnel. You're getting ready to go out on the game. You're getting cronked up. You're jumping around. You're doing everything you need to do. It's all about it.
And you're walking down that tunnel and you put it on and you do your chin strap and you think, my life is never going to be the same after I run out that tunnel. And by God, you're right. It never is going to be the same.
That they hold you, you're waiting, you hear that band start playing.
You hear this crowd, it sounds like rain. And like when it's time to hit that field, I mean, the energy, the level that goes on, that it electrifies the whole crowd.
And then all of a sudden, the light comes on and you just explode into air.
It's like a vacuum, it pulls you and it takes you out there and you go out there and it's a big blue day and the band is playing the victors. It's going through you. You go out there and you touch that banner for the last time. That's the greatest thrill of your life, and having your teammates coming around you. You tell them we're fighting hard today because this is for the blue. This is for Michigan.
At the outset of the 1997 season, the Wolverines had not won a Big Ten title in 5 years, an eternity in Ann Arbor.
We had great talent, just lost some games we should have never lost. And going into 97, you know, had a great group of guys.
I mean, we had a lot of great guys at my first couple of years there, and I thought we would have had a chance to win it then. And coming in the third year, I mean, having those disappointing seasons, losing, 3 or 4 games, I think, a season for the first 2 years.
4 straight 4-loss seasons had the maize and blue faithful grumbling.
Michigan football fans are not often football fans, they're really opera critics. And they're so used to 10-1 seasons that an 8-4 season gets them complaining pretty loudly.
Everybody thought Michigan was done. Michigan wasn't going to win a football game that year. Nobody was returning. Everybody thought Ohio State was the best thing since sliced bread.
But in the fall of 1997, the Wolverines knew they had something special.
You know, we sat down at the beginning of that season, even before that, training, conditioning, said this is the year we're going to give it everything we got. You know, if we fall out on the field, that's what's going to happen.
I wanted to win. So I remember going to the coach and saying, I want to do whatever, to help this team win.
With quarterback Brian Greasy, who had to be convinced to return for his senior year, the 97 Wolverines ran off 8 straight to start the season, with big wins over Colorado, Notre Dame, and Michigan State, featuring Charles Woodson's circus catch interception.
Throws, and unbelievable! Made a spectacular interception.
They then traveled to Happy Valley to take on third-ranked Penn State.
Finally, they're on the radar. They're number 4 in the country, going into Happy Valley to play an undefeated number 2 ranked Penn State squad, and a very tough place to play.
We wasn't getting a whole lot of respect, and it kind of upset us. Got us mad.
And I'll never forget on the first play when Glenn Steele came in and just absolutely demolished the quarterback.
And here's McQuarrie back to throw, and he's going to be sacked back inside the 15 by Glenn Steele, who came pouring through.
That's what our whole deal is. We're going to go in there and show the people out there what this team's about.
Steele told Jim Herman, who was the defensive coordinator, what he was going to do, and Herman said, we never do that on the first play. Glenn Steele says, I'm going in.
No respect, we're going to get our respect. When I hit him, when his head hit the ground, his chin straps popped, and his helmet kind of popped up, and of course I just stared at him and I said, boy, you're going to have a long game. You're going to have a very long game.
Michigan's defense only gave up 9 total first downs and sacked Penn State quarterback Mike McQuarrie 5 times. On the Wolverines' first possession of the second quarter, Greasy ran 40 yards, the longest rush allowed by the Nittany Lions all year.
40, breaks loose at the 50, finally tackled from behind at the Penn State 40 by Sheehan.
It wasn't about beating them by a point or 7 points. We were going after them for the kill.
Griese was just the type of guy who knew exactly what he needed to do and did it well, and because of his senior leadership and that ability, was able to bring the team to a new level.
Michigan goes out there and flat out kicks their butts. The most dominant performance I've ever seen out of a Michigan team.
Griese then hit Charles Woodson for a 37-yard score, making it 17-0 Michigan.
See you later, Charles Woodson, 37 yards, touchdown Michigan.
An 8-yard Griese pass made it 24-0 at halftime, the largest home deficit ever for the Lions under Joe Paterno.
They win 34-8, and that game launches them to number 1 in the country, which they held the rest of the way.
We knew what kind of team we had. We're right here, we're standing our ground, we're taking it all the way to the end.
As the Wolverines head out of the tunnel under the M Club banner. Dan?
But in order to get to the Rose Bowl and play for a national championship, Michigan had to beat the 4th-ranked and once-beaten Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big House.
Jackson the throw, gives out a draw under heavy pressure to Pearson, rather to Matt Keller, and Keller will get a couple.
You know, it was back and forth, and it was tight, and it was down to the wire, you know, the way those games should be.
And in big games, the special players are the ones who usually step up and make the difference. And eventual Heisman Trophy winner Charles Woodson did just that.
Charles Woodson, he said, you know, I'm sick of losing. I'm sick of all the talk. Let's just win.
Gets the snap from Adamy, sets to throw, has time, now steps up and fires. Woodson's got it on a crossing route, 35, 30, hit.
Woodson's 39-yard catch from Griese set up Anthony Thomas's short touchdown run.
Touchdown, Michigan! Anthony Thomas, the freshman.
Then Woodson took a second-quarter punt, 78 yards for a touchdown, staking Michigan to a 13-0 halftime lead.
Woodson back, grabs this one on his 23, races to his left, to the 25, splits 2 men, now to his left at the 40, 45, and there he goes! Charles Woodson down the sideline, he's gonna go all the way, touchdown Michigan!
You know, in those games, you want to be that guy. You know what I mean? You want to be that guy to make that play.
Woodson then sealed the Big Ten title with this late interception.
Now comes back, fires in them, end zone intercepted by Charles Woodson!
The Wolverines came into the game number 1 and stayed that way, beating the Buckeyes 20-14.
And they will have their perfect regular season at 11-0.
The feeling that right here, pretty much every year, it's between Michigan and Ohio State. And of course, what better to have it at the end of the season, last game.
Game was over. Michigan wins. Let's go to Pasadena.
Are you ready to go to Pasadena?
Michigan was on their way to the Rose Bowl to play for a national championship, their first in 50 years.
We had everything to lose. Everything. Right there on the platter. They had everything to gain.
The matchup was set to be a battle between Washington State's All-American quarterback Ryan Leaf and Heisman Trophy winner Charles Woodson. But it was Brian Griese who stole the show.
Split backs out of the I formation now for the Wolverines.
Griese connected with Ty Streets on a 53-yard score in the second quarter, tying the game at 7 heading into halftime.
Brian Griese hits Ty Streets for 53 yards over the head of Ray Jackson. And the Wolverines are on the board just like that.
We were nervous, but yet we were confident. We knew what we had to do. If we had the nice game plan. We were conservative, but yet we were willing to take chances. They were going to take the run away from us, so we went top shelf and threw the ball. I mean, we did the right things.
In the third quarter, Griese gave the Wolverines the lead for good. Again, hooking up with Streets on a 58-yard pass play, the longest score of the season.
Long bomb from Griese. Streets holds it in, touchdown! He got behind Demore and Cola.
Michigan iced the game in the fourth quarter using one of its patented time-consuming drives to take a 21-13 advantage.
Touchdown, Michigan! Off the play-action fake.
Everybody on that last play, that's where they were just completely exhausted. There was nobody coming off. They were breathing hard. Everybody was, on both sides. I mean, it was a battle.
Leaf did all he could to get the Cougars a victory, but couldn't get a playoff as the clock ran down.
We got to stop this guy. He's moving down the field. We can't let him score.
They've got one snap left. 2 seconds. Leaf gets the snap, throws the ball in the ground.
The game is over. Game is over.
Michigan has realized its destiny and won the national championship in the Rose Bowl.
And then after that clock hit 0, we knew that we had just completed the perfect season.
The Michigan Wolverines won their first national title since 1948, beating Washington State in the Rose Bowl 21-16.
It was a great accomplishment. The reason it was a great accomplishment is they played as a team. And the team is the only thing.
It was a magical season. The breaks had to go, the attitude had to be right, and the fact that they all believed that the most important game was the next game, all through that season, was a brilliant job by Lloyd Carr and a great effort by those kids.
We had a lot of ability. We had a talented team. We played with great enthusiasm. But I think most of all, it was about a group of guys who just decided that we're tired of 4 lost seasons.
Herbert Orrin Fritz Crisler was not a warm and fuzzy man. His players wouldn't call him Fritz or even Mr. Crisler. They called him the Lord. Few men had more impact, not only on Michigan football, but the game itself.
In 1945, Fritz Crisler's going in to play Army at Army. And he's got nothing. He's got 18-year-old kids. They've got 25-year-old men, fresh from World War II. And as Crisler said, when the other guy's got $1,000 and you got a dime, it's time to gamble. He starts fishing through the rule book and discovers that thanks to World War II, you can now substitute anybody at any time. And as he said, those 3 little words changed college football forever. So all of a sudden, he's got guys going in and out of the game, and they can't believe what's happening. This is brand new. And they still lose 28-7. They're not that good. But the idea was sound, and 2 years later, they perfect that with the Mad Magicians.
The master magician was World War II hero Bob Chappius, who still holds Big Ten records in passing efficiency and quarterback rating, in spite of being the tailback of that team. Chappius was one of the star attractions of Michigan's single-wing attack.
It was some sports writer wrote us up as the Mad Magicians because we had a lot of sleight of hand stuff.
One of the things that added to the mystique of the Mad Magicians was Crisler's unique helmet design. After arriving in 1938, Crisler introduced the winged helmet, which he thought would help quarterbacks find receivers downfield.
When the receiver makes a cut or makes a break, the quarterback is allowed to see the stripes on the receiver's helmet. And when he sees the stripes breaking, he knows when to throw the ball.
Few helmets inspire fear in the opposition. So great is its power that some coaches refuse to let their teams watch the Wolverines take the field.
By God, that is a Michigan football helmet, and it's ours exclusively. You see that helmet and you know that it's Michigan football.
Others create lookalikes to use during the week of practice leading up to the Michigan game, so their players aren't paralyzed when the Wolverines come flying out of the tunnel.
There's no in between. You either love those helmets or you hate them. I grew up loving them, and I followed Michigan for years. Just those helmets I followed. And then once I got into college football, I learned about where those helmets were from.
I jokingly, when I came here, and the people didn't think I was joking, I said, I think I'll change that headgear. I think I'll do something else besides that headgear. Well, that headgear is tradition here. I mean, there'll be no change in the headgear.
Those distinctive painted wings became eternally linked to Michigan football during the glory years under the Lord. It was the era of the Mad Magicians in Ann Arbor, whose relentless offensive machine left teams baffled as to where the ball even was.
These guys were so electric, so much fun to watch. You'd watch an old camera shot of them, the cameraman gets lost. They're playing Harlem Globetrotters in the backfield of a football game. Crisler said he himself was fooled, and he did a very smart thing. He didn't try to coach these guys. They're 28 also. They're from the Battle of the Bulge. He's not gonna scare them.
And he would look down on the offensive team, and if he could see the ball, he would say, "Run it again."
No one challenged the 47 Michigan squad on their march to the Big Ten title. The 1947 season marked the team's return to Pasadena since they played the very first Rose Bowl in 1901. This time, they arrived as celebrities.
We had a chance to play golf with Bing Crosby, and we had a chance to go to Bob Hope's television show. And they took pictures of us with celebrities and so forth. But we still knew why we were there.
They would work their magic in front of the rest of the nation, destroying USC 49-0. It was the Lord's last game as coach, as he would retire with a national championship. Legend has it that after that win, Crisler ran into a member of the Maize and Blue faithful sobbing in the hotel lobby. Confused, the coach asked him why he was so upset.
He said, "Well, Michigan came out here in 1901, and he said they played Stanford, and they won 49-0. Now you come out all these years later, and your team beat Southern Cal 49-0. All those years, and not a damn bit of improvement."
In 1948, Fritz Crisler promoted assistant coach and former superstar player Benny Oosterbaan, one of the greatest athletes ever to wear a Michigan uniform, to the position of head coach.
He had a chance to play like Red Grange in the 20s, and get paid a lot of money. But his religion would not allow him to play on Sundays. So he stayed at the University of Michigan and was a mainstay.
The Wolverines didn't miss a beat, allowing less than 5 points per game. Oosterbaan was named National Coach of the Year in 1948, and Michigan won the conference title 3 times, including another national championship. A run that even impressed Fritz Crisler. In his 21 years as coach, Bo famously preached,
"No man is more important than the team. No coach is more important than the team. The team, the team, the team."
But even that legendary field general would concede some players and some individual performances have left lasting impressions that will be remembered forever.
I've never seen a man pull in passes like that.
But when he did throw me the ball, when I did catch a punt, when I did return a kickoff, I made the most of those opportunities.
He called the tune more than the other team's offense did. They had to respond to him. I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
The greatest recruit is Tom Harbaugh. He was a great player, and everybody wanted to help him play better.
In Harmon's last game against the Buckeyes at the Horseshoe, the two-time All-American ran for 2 touchdowns, passed for 2 more, and kicked 4 extra points, while averaging 50 yards a punt and making 3 interceptions.
He did everything. He ran, he punted, he passed, he played defense, he returned punts. Well, he just did everything, and he did it all in style and with much ability.
The greatest single game by a Michigan player secured Harmon's Heisman, the school's first.
But even the Buckeye fans down at the Horseshoe stood up and gave him a standing ovation when he left the field. And I guarantee he was the first and only Michigan guy ever to get that at the Horseshoe.
The greatest offensive player in Michigan history is a 1A, 1B. It's Tom Herman, and then there's Anthony Carter. Two different eras, but two great electrifying players.
A tiny receiver from Florida, Anthony Carter electrified fans with circus catches and spectacular returns, breaking records that had stood for decades.
The great thing about Anthony was he had great confidence, but he was a quiet kid.
Well, the score was tied 21-21, and I brought in the play and told John Wangler to throw me the ball. And, Ralph Clayton, who was a senior at the time, looked at me like, who is this freshman bringing in the play and telling Wangs to throw him the ball?
He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter.
So I told him to throw it to him. If he threw it to me, hopefully, I could make something happen. And fortunately, I did. And, it was just an outstanding catch, outstanding run, and I think everybody still remember that play to this day.
There's not too many human beings on this earth who could have made that play, and he did it. And I think that's really what put him on the map.
A three-time finalist for the Heisman Trophy, Carter changed the Big Ten forever.
On 4th down and inches, Gerback calling the signals. Gets the snap. He's going to throw. He pumps once, now heaves it deep.
Now look back, and then the ball's in the air. So I'm like, oh man. So now put my head down. I start digging.
Desmond Howard's Heisman hopes got a jump start in the first game of his senior year when he laid out for a spectacular catch.
That catch, I still look at it today and I can't figure out how he caught it.
So I just jumped out, parallel to the ground as far as I possibly could, kept my eye on it.
Deep in the end zone, touchdown, Desmond Howard! What a catch and what a call on 4th down.
He went on to score 22 more touchdowns, including a famous kick return against Ohio State.
Two of the three moments that we all remember at Michigan Stadium are Desmond's, probably making the most famous catch in Michigan football history. And of course, later on that season to finish out against Ohio State, and flashes, of course, the Heisman pose.
Desmond will field it and return it from the 8. He splits two men up 15-20, goes to his left, into the open field, 35-40. He's on his way. Desmond Howard is going all the way. A spectacular 92-yard punt return for a touchdown. He has done it.
So as I passed the punter, I'm like, man, should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? Because I broke open and crossed the goal line. I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to do it. And that's when I struck the Heisman pole.
That is a Heisman Trophy winner, Frank. What a run.
In only his second game at Michigan, Charles Woodson started. And in only his second season, he was named All-American.
Hall scrambles out of there, now has Fizel in his face, throws, and
Unbelievable! That catch he made in Michigan State, I've never seen anything that tops it. He is by far probably one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen.
He did everything. He cut off half of the field, maybe more. And then when he was on offense, holy Moses, they still had to watch this guy.
Woodson back, grabs this one on his 23, races to his left, to the 25, splits two men, now to his left at the 40, 45, and there he goes! Charles Woodson down the sideline, he's gonna go all the way, touchdown Michigan, shades of Desmond Howard!
I would just remember being tired. I just seen daylight. Immediately. I knew there would be one guy I had to beat, and I was able to stiff arm him, and then it was sideline from then. And no matter how tired I was, can't let the kicker catch you,
Charles Woodson, like Desmond Howard, came in out of nowhere that year.
But in his junior year, Woodson showed what he could do on both sides of the field.
Now comes back, fires in them. End zone intercepted by Charles Woodson.
So dominant, the Heisman voters named him the best player in the land.
You know, the fact is that no defensive player has ever won it. And the biggest factor was me playing on offense.
To us, it was like, all right, Star, go ahead and go on offense. All right, Star, go ahead and go on defense. Go ahead and return, too. Want to kick?
Tom Brady split time at quarterback with a young phenom named Drew Henson.
He was one of the smartest kids and tough as nails. He could play in the NFL. Did I think he was going to be a 3-time Super Bowl MVP? No.
But in his last game for Michigan against Alabama in the Orange Bowl, it was all Brady, connecting on 34 of his 46 passes for a career-high 4 touchdowns, a sign of things to come.
His junior year, he played Ohio State and got murdered. They just threw everything at him, and that kid kept getting up, standing in that huddle, and firing his guys up for the next snap. That's when I knew he had something special between his ears and in his heart.